So, today is a profound topic. What is consciousness? Yes. And of course, to answer this question in one way is impossible. In one presentation also would be very difficult, if not impossible. So most probably there will be several presentations on this topic from different points of view or different approaches. So if you look into the first slide, we could see the definition of consciousness given by Sri Aurobindo. Consciousness is a fundamental thing, the fundamental thing in existence. It is the energy, the motion, the movement of consciousness that creates the universe and all that is in it. Not only the macrocosm, but the microcosm is nothing but consciousness arranging itself. This is a profound, vast definition of consciousness. Everything in the universe, whatever the form of ignorance or subconscious form or even inconscient form, is the result of the consciousness arranging itself. Consciousness is a fundamental principle of being, of existence, of infinite existence. And everything what is has its own consciousness, as it were. That's why everything in this universe knows how to be itself. Yes, things know how to behave in the way they should behave. Universe, the galaxies know, and the stars know where they move and how they move. The Earth rotates around the sun, knows how to do it very well. And we are sitting on this Earth and moving around, also know how to do it with all the animals, water, air, oceans, continents, trees. Everything knows how to be in a meaningful and coherent manner because there is consciousness everywhere present. So consciousness is a reality inherent in existence, says Sri Aurobindo. It is there even when it is not active on the surface, but silent and immobile. It is there even when it is invisible on the surface, not reacting on outward things or sensible to them, but withdrawn and either active or inactive within. So it can be active within or inactive within, and still it is consciousness. It is there even when it seems to us to be quite absent, and the being, to our view, unconscious and inanimate. So even inanimate objects such as stones and metals and so on, water elements, they are nothing but the action and movement of some consciousness behind it. So for us to get out of this difficulty to speak about consciousness, I decided maybe to take different approaches and kind of view this phenomenon of consciousness from different approaches. So first and the most important approach to consciousness is psychological, experiential, depicting experiences on different levels of consciousness, depicting them in terms of experience, yes, and perception rather than concepts and visions and ideas. The second approach would be philosophical, which is more visual, conceptual, mental approach, depicting planes of consciousness and being in different traditions, especially in Vedic tradition and the integral yoga. Then There can be sociological or historical approach depicting different structures of consciousness and developmental paradigm of evolution of consciousness, how societies evolved, how consciousness in social structures evolved, so to say, psychology of social development. Then we can have one more approach, linguistic approach, presenting language and communication as a means of self-expression of consciousness. Yeah, the evolution of languages, different types of languages, different ways of expressing and communicating. Expressing oneself and communicating that expression to others. And there can be also artistic approach, which deals with art and culture in general, creativity and refinement of our emotions and feelings, which is also an expression of very highly cultivated forms of consciousness in manifestation. And there can be finally scientific approach, which deals with material manifestation, science of nature, or natural sciences, I have to change it, including physics, chemistry, biology, medicine, and so on. So describing our universe outside. And also it is about consciousness again. So we will start with our first psychological and philosophical approaches today and move later to other sociological and linguistic, artistic, and scientific, if you don't mind. If you have some other approach in mind, please communicate. It would be interesting to hear whether you would have something else to offer, how to view consciousness from which perspective. So we will start with philosophical approach, a general overview of the planes of consciousness and being. I will start straightforward because of lack of time. I will not go much more into the psychological approach. I will just show you the vision of the Vedic vision of levels of consciousness and being, and at the same time, Sri Aurobindo's integral yoga, which is also following the same vision. So Brahman, or spirit. Brahman is from root brih, to grow. It's some consciousness which is present on all the levels, from the highest to the lowest. So on the highest level, it is Sat, or divine existence, infinite, immortal being, which constantly is, which cannot be diminished or cannot be changed, or cannot stop being the being. So it's the divine existence, which is intrinsic with the divine consciousness. Consciousness itself, when we say consciousness, we mean also consciousness power or consciousness force, chittapas, both of them. So within the being, there is knowledge or awareness of its own existence. So, and this awareness of its own existence is expressed as bliss, as constant and infinite delight of existence. So existence which knows itself totally is absolute bliss. Now, this is the transcendental level, and then we have the Vijnana, the supermind, which connects the Satchitananda to the lower hemisphere of Manas, mind, Prana, life, and Annam, matter. So in this way, we have three the triangle above and triangle below, as it were, and the connection in between, which connects the transcendental trinity with the lower trinity of our mind, life, and body. And it's quite interesting because mind, life, and body in the Vedic tradition are represented as the heaven, the space in between heaven and earth, and earth, yes, or mental, vital, and physical existence. Okay, so this is the vision, yeah, the fundamental vision, which is also found in the grammar. In Sanskrit grammar, you can find the same 7 karakas, which are kind of corresponding to these fundamental levels of consciousness and being. So being is first, being determines consciousness. Consciousness is determined by the being, as it is in materialism. But that being is infinite and immortal and one. So we can see that these 3 higher, the higher triplicity, is projected into the lower triplicity. And the Sat, which is existence, becomes the matter. So to say, matter is this existence, infinite existence, only in time and space, you know, in the ignorant state. And Chit tapas is projected into prana. You know. Prana possesses 2 major qualities of power and knowledge. So knowledge and power, these, in the Vedic terms, these are ashwins, you know, the 2 horse riders, twins. And they represent knowledge and power, which actually are split here in this world. So knowledge and power do not follow always together. There is constant delay between the 2. Whereas in Chit tapas, in the transcendental realm, they are one and the same. And manas. Manas is the projection of the supermind. And in some way, sometimes in the Upanishads, they speak that manas is the projection of ananda, of bliss. But Sri Aurobindo makes this distinction, says that supermind projects itself as the mind in this manifestation. So to know the mind, really, we need to rise to the supermind. And ananda represents this psychic being here, or the soul, the projection of our Anandamaya Purusha into this universe. We have this soul within us, which is coming from this Ananda level of consciousness. To go further, you can see also that Sri Aurobindo's symbol is exactly representing the same vision. We have Satchitananda as descending triangle, and Anna, Prana, and Manas as ascending triangle, whereas Vijnana is the level in between this square and lotus within, which unites both into one existence, because Vijnana is the link between the 2, where Satchitananda is present and is being projected into this lower hemisphere of our mental, vital, and physical existence. These are fundamentals of our of Indian tradition, Indian philosophy. Planes of being and consciousness. Now I will read one passage from Sri Aurobindo which explains everything, all these 7 levels. Atman, the self, represents itself differently in the 7-fold movement of nature, according to the dominant principle of the consciousness in the individual being. So Atman is usually the word which is translated as the self. Literally, it is the self, yeah? One self. In the Veda, Atman is also translated sometimes as the body. So there are many selves. There is bodily self, there is vital self, mental self, supramental self. There are selves. Yeah? So, in the physical consciousness, Atman becomes the material being, which is called the Annamaya Purusha. Purusha, the being, the self, made of Anna, made of matter. This is the material self. My body is the material self. In the vital or nervous consciousness, Atman becomes the vital or dynamic being, Pranamaya Purusha. Purusha made of prana, of the vital energy. This is my emotions, feelings, sensations, all of them, they constitute one body within me, and I know them as my pranic self, Pranamaya Purusha. In the mental consciousness, Atman becomes the mental being, Manomaya Purusha, Purusha made of manas. In the supra-intellectual consciousness dominated by truth or causal idea, called in the Veda Satyam Ritam Brihat, the true, the right, the vast, Atman becomes the ideal being or great soul, Vijnanamaya Purusha, or Mahat Atman. In the consciousness proper to the universal beatitude, Atman becomes the all-blissful being, or all-enjoying and all-productive soul, Anandamaya Purusha. In the consciousness proper to the infinite divine self-awareness, which is also the infinite, all-effective will, Chittapas, Atman is the all-conscious soul that is source and lord of the universe, Chaitanya Purusha. Notice that Sri Aurobindo says all the time that Atman becomes. Atman becomes the physical, becomes the pranic, becomes the mental being, becomes the supramental being. Atman becomes even universal beatitude, all enjoying and all blissful being, the all productive soul. Atman becomes. But here there is a shift. In the consciousness proper to the infinite divine self-awareness, which is also infinite and all effective will, Chittapas, Atman is. Atman does not become anymore. It is the all-conscious soul. So it is that consciousness force which is intrinsic with the being, with the self. And in the consciousness proper to the state of pure divine existence, Atman is Satpurusha, the pure divine self. So it's quite interesting that even on the Ananda level, Atman becomes the all-enjoying and all-productive soul. So, man being one in his true self with the Lord who inhabits all forms, can live in any of these states of the self in the world and partake of its experiences. He can be anything he wills, from the material to the all-blissful being, wherever the becoming is. Through the Anandamaya, he can enter into the Chaitanya and Satpurusha. This is the definition of Sri Aurobindo in this particular view of philosophical approach to consciousness. Here it is, Atman self, Satpurusha, Chaitanya Purusha, Anandamaya Purusha, all blissful soul, Vijnanamaya Purusha, great soul, Manomaya Purusha, mental being, Pranamaya Purusha, vital being, and Annamaya Purusha, physical being.
Can I make a question?
Yes.
Yeah. Can I say Atman is when a manifestation of consciousness is getting individual?
Right. I would say self-aware. Individual is already on the lower level, yes, starting from from our embodied state, yes, where the souls are embodied. But self-awareness, for example, Satpurusha, yes, divine self. What is the difference between Atman and Brahman? This is the fundamental question in Indian philosophy. Yes? Um, Atman is Brahman and Brahman is Atman, as Upanishads would say. But there is a difference. Brahman is existence, whereas Atman is existent. Yeah, Brahman is consciousness, whereas Atman is conscient. The Brahman is bliss, whereas Atman is blissful. So there is an aspect of self-awareness within that realm of consciousness and being, and that self-awareness makes Brahman Atman, as it were.
It's like a mirror watching to a mirror.
Well, if that is a mirror only, yes, but it is not only the mirror, it's the divine being. There is the self there. But when itself becomes aware of itself, it becomes the self. When it is not aware of itself, it is the spirit. Well, with our language, what can we say? Our language is limited to our use here in this lower hemisphere. So, and we are trying to explain things which are far beyond our reach with this language. Yes? So it's just a type of kind of philosophical inquiry, so definitions which help our surface mind to understand things which are far beyond it. All right, great. Here is the explanation of the symbol of Sri Aurobindo given by the mother. The descending triangle represents Satchitananda. The ascending triangle represents the aspiring answer from matter under the form of light, life, light, and love. So from one side, this is the infinite divine existence. From another side, there is the finite material existence, yes, in the form of life, light, and love. These are three aspiring triangle, answering to the descending triangle. So in Sri Aurobindo's yoga, in the integral yoga, the vision is of this kind, that there is always an aspiration from the heart, call from below, and there is answer from above. And nothing else. We are constantly calling and constantly receiving the support from above, from the source of our existence. And that is the process of evolution. That's how we evolve and grow in consciousness. We receive more and more support from above and calling more and more from below. In the junction of both, the central square is the perfect manifestation, having at its center the avatar of the Supreme, the lotus. And the waters inside the square represent the multiplicity, the creation. And if you count how many streams are here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 streams. And these are the 7 rivers or 7 currents in the Veda. Yes? They are known as Devi Dvara, or these nadis, the rivers, the streams, of which Sri Aurobindo spoke in his Secret of the Veda. Actually, he started to discover the Veda because of these 3 rivers, 3 of them. That is Ila, Saraswati, and Mahi, or Bharati. So he saw the vision of Ila, Saraswati, and Mahi, and he was wondering why these 3 rivers are coming to him. And then he found them in the Veda and their explanation there. So basically these 7 rivers or 7 streams represent Sat, Chit, Ananda, Vijnana, Manas, Prana, and Annam. These are the major streams, yes, of consciousness pervading the universe. And there is another approach to consciousness, not only in the form of descending powers and ascending powers, not in the form of levels or planes of consciousness and being, but in terms of the qualities of the soul, of our Anandamaya Purusha, of the soul which is embodied here, our own soul. And this particular symbol is a mother's symbol. The central circle represents the divine consciousness here in the center. The 4 petals represent the 4 powers of the mother, Maheshwari, Mahakali, Mahalakshmi, and Mahasaraswati. And you can see immediately that Maheshwari is the consciousness which perceives the divine being, infinite being, vast and calm. Mahakali is the power of consciousness itself. It is Chit Tapas, that very power which manifests the worlds and destroys them. And Mahalakshmi is the force of Ananda, of bliss. And Mahasaraswati is the consciousness of Vijnana, or the truth. Yeah? The truth consciousness, which finds all the means to manifest the transcendental Satchitananda. And these 4 powers, 4 petals or 4 Shaktis, have also projection into the world as the 12 petals representing the 12 powers of the mother manifested for her work here. And these are the qualities of our soul, which we must acquire in our life gradually. We have to practice these, to build the bridge to our inner being, to our inner soul within the heart. These are sincerity and humility, which belong to Maheshwari, with gratitude, perseverance and aspiration, which belongs, so to say, properly to Mahalakshmi, with receptivity as a transition, progress and courage, which belong straight to Mahakali, and with transition of goodness and Mahasaraswati's major qualities of generosity and equality, with transition of peace to Maheshwari. So you can see, of course, these qualities are all the time rotating. They are not one-to-one relating to the 4 powers of the mother and to the 4 Shaktis, but still they have something in common with these major Shaktis of the mother. You can see immediately this, how they are located in this symbol. And according to the mother, everything begins with sincerity.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Vladimir, can I interrupt you?
Yes. Yes.
I saw a connection between the petals.
Mm-hmm.
If you make if you cross, you make an axial crossing from sincerity, crossing Maheshwari energy to Mahakali, you find progress. If you come back from the energy from Mahakali to Maheshwari, you become humility. And then you can go side to the side, crossing to the axial with the energy of the divine consciousness. You see, humility, you are going to be courage. From the humility, from the courage, you are going to gratitude. It's like a cause-effect relation, if you can follow.
Yeah,
From the
beautiful,
gratitude,
beautiful.
you are going to godness. From the godness and perseverance, the fruit of the perseverance becomes generosity. From the generosity, you are open to the aspiration. From the aspiration, you see the equanimity of the equality. And from the quality, you are receptive to the peace. Can you see? It's a relation of cause effect crossing the axials. Then you can mix with the energies from Mahalakshmi to Maheshwar. Anytime you are crossing the axial between one side to the other side, you experience the movement with the divine consciousness energy. Can you feel it? And then you can grow like a flower. You can grow to the one side to the other side. And if you are continuing with making the petals, the flower petals.
Okay. You see, they have the different colors, and these colors also are very significant for us. Why do they are significant? Because they give us also the order of quality changing, like from blue to the, to this to green blue, and from green blue to green, from green to light green to yellow, to the golden, to the red gold, to the gold. So this kind of transition also is very important. There is the order, so to say, starting with sincerity. Sincerity is the first and the most important quality, where we are sincere to what we do or what we perceive, what we seek. And the more we are sincere, the more we realize that the being, the divine being, is in charge of this world, and we are here just to discover this presence of this consciousness in us. And that makes us humble. It leads to humility. Yeah? The cross, interesting this, because Maheshwari and Mahakali, they work together for the manifestation. Yeah, but the qualities, the petals around, also they also have this transition. Yeah, so humility will be the next stage of understanding that the divine is sincerity. You know, understanding sincerity leads to humility. To the humbleness, to understand that everything depends on the grace of the divine, and and that leads to gratitude, because then we feel really grateful for that the divine is, and not for anything else. It's like unconditional love or bhakti. Just, you feel the delight within you, because you know that the divine is and you are not in charge. And from there you have that sense of gratitude. You are grateful to the divine for no reason, no other reason than that is, that the divine is. And if you persevere, so to say, if you hold on to these three, being sincere, humble, and grateful, that would lead you to aspiration. Yeah? To Mother says that aspiration is the fire which is kindled in your heart by the divine. So because you are constantly recognizing the divine, because you're constantly grateful and you're continuing, then this fire of call will be flamed in your heart. And that will lead you to receptivity. And receptivity of the divine in everything. You will be receptive of the grace. You will be feeling and seeing the divine in all events of your life. Yes? And that will lead you to progress. Progress, that you will see what you have to do next and next to grow in consciousness. You will see already the path which you will have to walk. And the only thing Mother says we will lack and we would need is courage to walk the path. Because these 8 qualities first, which I was mentioning, towards the divine. Yes? And the rest 4 are towards humanity: goodness, generosity, equality, and peace. And they belong to Mahasaraswati, so to say. Goodness is this goodwill, to find goodwill in every being, instead of seeing the ill will and criticizing people for their imperfect ways of thinking or expression. Generosity, one has to be generous with what one has, receives from the divine, because everything comes from the divine and has to be put into the action. And equality, we have to perceive everybody equally, without really, as we do, that this is the rich or that is the poor, or this is the clever and that is the... So this is the friend and that is the enemy, without distinguishing between the beings because all of them are here for the divine manifestation. And this is the prerequisite, the most important condition of Mahasaraswati's perfection. And then we need peace. So you see the whole transition from color to color, from meaning to meaning, also leads us on the way. It gives us a kind of a perspective. But I like your idea of going from Maheshwari to Mahakali across, because Maheshwari establishes the vastness, and Mahakali brings the force of consciousness and action, which leads to Mahalakshmi as the result of these two acting: sincerity in progress, humility in courage, project or produce aspiration and perseverance, which are reflected in generosity and equality. So, but this is very philosophical, what you say. But still, we are talking in this philosophical language today. So it is very good to think in many ways. Whatever ways are intuitive for you, it would be great to discover. Yes? Yes, yes, Will.
Quickly, it's beautiful. I love this, by the way. This is new to me with the integral yoga, the circle here. The four powers, so you've got the goddess energies as faces of the one. That's great. Just out of curiosity, are they seen as powers or shaktis of the mother, or are they seen as both her Shakti's powers and as deity forms who can be propitiated directly in their own realms? It's more of a tantric question, I think.
Well, they are in their own.
Vladimir, I don't just know if it matters, but surely I would say yes, they each have their own qualities, and maybe one is enough to reach the others. So.
Of course, they are all. It's quite clear. There is in the center. There is Mahashakti. Yes. So this Mahashakti, kind of, for the sake of manifestation, Satchitananda. So this Mahashakti on the level of Sat is Maheshwari, on the level of Chit Tapas, she is Mahakali. Yes, this Shakti. On the level of Ananda, she is Mahalakshmi, and on the level of Vijnana, she is Mahasaraswati. But this is one Shakti, the Divine Mother, yes, with four major aspects of knowledge, power, bliss, knowledge, power, bliss, and skill, or the perfection. So here we have these major qualities of the divine Shakti. Of course, Satchitananda is one and cannot be split into three. We are just talking philosophically here, because consciousness, being, consciousness, and bliss is a one being. Only we speak like this because we want to know. So we speak in time and space, and in the language which is born from this separation of separated consciousness in time and space. So we have to define the subject and object and make comparisons and so on and so forth. But truly speaking, this is one Mahashakti. And all these petals are also, they are emanated from that Shakti, but they are needed in their kind of all the colors for the manifestation of the divine here. And what is interesting that Matri Mandir represents this center, and as you know, Matri Mandir has four entries, and these are exactly Maheshwari, Mahakali, Mahalakshmi, and Mahasaraswati entries into the center, into the central chamber, where you have a crystal in the center with the ray of light descending and nothing else, silence. And you have 12 petals around. In each petal has the same color and the same name, Sincerity is a blue. When you enter into the petal for meditation, you will sit in the blue light, yeah, and you meditate on sincerity and call to this quality to receive it in your life. So whenever you lack something, courage or goodness, you go to that petal and you sit there and meditate and call for this quality of the soul to manifest in you. Yeah. So there are two major approaches to consciousness. One is from the point of view of the levels of consciousness or the faculties of consciousness, as it were, spiritual approach, and the other is soul approach or psychic being approach, which is the embodiment of the mother's power. Mother is in the heart, and Sri Aurobindo, with his consciousness above the head, which descends from above, is the spiritual consciousness. So psychic and spiritual, two elements in us.
Thank you.
Yes, so psychological approach. Maybe we begin today with psychological, or we may stop and come to it next time. Maybe I will start just few slides, and then I will stop just to start the whole psychological view. The true being may be realized in one or both of two aspects: the self or Atman, and the soul or Antaratman, psychic being, Chaitya Purusha. So this is what I just said. So we may have two realizations, two different realizations of the self or Atman, which is above the head, unborn self, Purusha, witness, Mukti, what we know as Mukti, yeah? When we discover our unborn self above the head. And the presence in the heart, Antaratman, or Chaitya Purusha, or Angushtamatra Purusha, Hridi Guayam, in the heart of man, in the cave of the heart. The difference is that one is felt as universal above the head, and the other as individual, supporting the mind, life, and body. That's the difference. When one first realizes the Atman, one feels it separate from all things, existing in itself and detached. So it is something which was never born and will never die. It is that part of ourselves which is immortal and constantly viewing our kind of life here from above, the witness, Purusha. When one realizes the psychic being, it is not like that. For this brings the sense of union with the divine and dependence upon it, and soul consecration to the divine alone, and the power to change the nature and discover the true mental, the true vital, the true physical being in oneself. Both realizations are necessary for this yoga. Now look at this fundamental difference. One is mukti. You come to the place where nothing disturbs you anymore because you are becoming unborn and immortal being, and not detached from the existence, viewing the existence in this peace and tranquility of your immortal state of being. And the other is in the heart, presence in the heart, which is very different, which depends on the divine, which is seeking the divine in every expression, in the physical, vital, and mental being here in this world, and consecrated to divine, loves the divine. There was a beautiful story discussed in the evening talks with Sri Aurobindo and his disciples, where they brought him this story from Ramakrishna and wanted to know his opinion. What is the difference between the spiritual perception and the psychic perception in the heart? The spiritual perception accepts everything as the divine. It doesn't see anywhere something else. Everything is just on the way and in the particular form of the divine expression. Whereas psychic being views and seeks only the divine expression here and cannot accept anything which is not totally manifested as the divine. So these two views which are contradictory to our mind, we have to bring them together in integral yoga. Both realizations are necessary for this yoga.
Or excuse me, dear Vladimir, can you repeat the second perspective, the psychic being perspective? Because
the psychic being accepts nothing but the divine. Whereas the spiritual perception of the jivatma over the head, unborn self, accepts everything as the divine. And by the way, between these two, we will always have a problem in our psychology. Yes, we will say yes, everything is the divine, but then there is so much imperfection in the world. So what shall we do with that? Yeah? Everything is the divine, we say from that perspective, but from the heart, we can't accept it, and we are seeking only for the divine expression in all forms. So one over the head is the Sri Aurobindo's light. Yeah? He accepted with his calmness and his vastness all things in this world as the divine manifestation. And this very, very powerful aspiration from the heart, seeking only the divine manifestation, is the mother's presence. And that is the psychic being. These two symbols of Sri Aurobindo, six-cornered star and mother's symbol of 12 petals, are two major foundations of our consciousness. By the way, in the Veda, they speak about these two also in a very cryptic and interesting manner. And if Sri Aurobindo would not give his comment on it, we would not know what it means. They speak about Dvipad and Chatushpad. Dvipade, Chatushpade, most probably many of you heard these mantras. Be merciful to Dvipad and Chatushpad. And usually it is translated in the way that Dvipad is man, Chatushpad is animal, because Dvipad is on 2 legs and Chatushpad on 4 legs. Then that was the translation. But Sri Aurobindo says it's not about this, it's about the states of consciousness. So Dvipad is the one who has 2 major connections, the heart and the center above the head. So unborn self and inborn self. Yeah, the spiritual being above the head and the psychic being within the heart. The Atman and Antaratman, Antaryamin within the heart. See, this is Dvipad. This is the major connection. And Chatushpad is the view on our being from the 4 levels of consciousness, of the physical, vital, mental, and supramental. It's the manifestation of all existence on all the levels of consciousness. So if you view these from these major perspectives of evolutionary levels of consciousness as Chatushpad, and the major connection of the inborn self and unborn self as Dvipad, then that would be the meaning of Dvipad and Chatushpad in the Veda, and our approach to consciousness from the point of view of faculties of consciousness on each level, and from the soul relation to the divine. Here I will stop for today, and I open kind of floor for questions or remarks, or and then we will continue next time and go deeper into the psychological view on consciousness.
So, hello.
Yes, Veronica.
Yes, hello. I live in Montreal, in the Sri Aurobindo Center in Montreal.
Very nice.
I'm very moved and I'm very grateful that this is happening. it's really like very important to me to receive these teachings. My question is a little bit about surrender.
Mm-hmm.
I am like, after all these years, I really don't understand surrender, to tell you the truth. And I know I don't need to understand it. It just needs to happen. But could you speak about surrender, please?
Right. Well, surrender is the fundamental principle of integral yoga. As Sri Aurobindo says in Savitri, surrender was his only strength.
Oh, wow.
There was no strength other than surrender
Wow.
in Ashwapati's yoga. Ashwapati is the major. Sri Aurobindo is Ashwapati, symbolized in Savitri. Basically, everything, we are the children of the Divine Mother, right? We are the manifestations of the higher consciousness. Our purpose and meaning is only in one thing, is to give more and more space for that higher consciousness here. That's why we are here. There's no other reason for us to be here. We are here to manifest the divine in its full capacity, in its fullness of consciousness, power, bliss, and truth. So, how could we do it? What would you do just to allow this to happen? Now, I'm leading you to this answer of surrender.
Well, like, understand that I am not the doer, that everything is just a manifestation of the divine, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But to really, like, there's so much that I have to let go of, to get to that point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. To let go is the first thing. Not to let go is the first thing. The first thing is to aspire, and then to reject, and then to surrender. Sri Aurobindo says aspiration, rejection, surrender. This is the major formula. If aspiration is not there, rejection doesn't make any sense. Why should you get rid of anything if you are not aspiring for something else?
Okay.
Yeah. If you want it, if you aspire, if you're burning, if you're flaming up, if you're seeking the divine presence, and you see that on the way there are many obstacles, this nature, your nature is wrong, this desire is wrong, this preference is an obstacle on the way, then you remove them from the way. This is the rejection, because you aspire, because aspiration is there. And then only you can surrender.
Oh, this is so helpful. So helpful. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Very, very, very helpful. So you aspire, you reject, and you surrender. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot surrender before you.
No, otherwise, to what you surrender? You will surrender to some preferences and desires, some vital forces, some lower forces, which may claim to be divine, or some dogmas or some ideas. That's what we usually do. That's the major mistake we do with surrender. So surrender is not passive, actually. It's quite an active state. Yeah? It's not to become totally passive and allow everything to happen. We can't do it.
Mm. Thank you so much, Vladimir.
You're welcome. Yes, Bill.
A silly question. It's very quick, Vladimir, but I just have to ask it. Experientially, I think, yes, I'm in this. It's that word bliss. It feels so good when we come into it. Bliss isn't going anywhere, is it?
No.
I mean, it's baked in as apparently as this truth. Like you started to talk today saying the one thing God can't do is not be God, so to say. And
because he is already, yes.
Right. I mean, and then the awareness of itself generates this experience of bliss. And I think that, so the bliss, it's never going to be, well, bliss is gone, you guys. You know, or we're on to, it's, the bliss apparently is the eternal and unchanging. I mean, and thank God for it, right?
Right, right. Mother says that when you remove all desires, preferences, you know, from your self, then you fall into this constant and uninterrupted bliss. So it's always there. only we always obstruct it with our own, you know, preferences, desires, and ideas and needs. So we kind of accumulated a lot of vital stuff within, which we try to figure out and to deal with. And that's why we are preoccupied with a different energy. But the moment we pacify, we remove it, we remove the need, the claim, the desire, and have only the flame of aspiration, then we are arriving at bliss. Great. All right. So maybe we'll stop here for today and continue next time and see what else we can do with this. There's so much more waiting for us to explore how consciousness works on all levels, and then.
Can you send a recording of this, Vladimir?
Sure. I will send you.
Can you forward, please, a recording of this?
Yes, I will do.
So I can catch up, you know, and next time on time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Good night.
Namaste.